Hello, friends. I'm Sachin Sharma, and today we have a very deep and thought-provoking conversation. Our guest is today Akash Keval from Netherlands. Together, we explore human consciousness, spirituality, question about human existence. So, keep open your mind and let's begin the journey. Hello, Akash sir. Welcome to our podcast, and thank you for coming.
Hi Sachin, thank you for having me today.
Sir, I think many people relate to that, especially when we see images from space, galaxies, blackness stretching endlessly. Billions of stars are there, and people often feel small, like we are tiny temporary beings on a random planet. So, from a Hindu philosophical perspective, what is the purpose of a human being in such a massive universe?
Well, Sachin, Hinduism answers that question in a very unexpected way. It says physical size has nothing to do with spiritual significance. A human being may be tiny physically, but consciousness itself may be one of the deepest mysteries in existence. Modern society teaches us to measure importance through money, fame, social status, followers, or power. But Hindu philosophy asks different questions. Not how important are you to the world, but how awake are you within yourself? Because humans possess something extraordinary. We can become aware of our own awareness. Like a tree grows, an animal survives, but humans can sit and ask, who am I? Why do I suffer? What is that? What does nothing externally fully satisfy me forever? And Hinduism says those questions are sacred.
Sir, that's interesting because many people today seem externally successful but internally empty.
Exactly. And Hindu philosophy saw this thousands of years ago. You can achieve wealth, luxury, attention, whatever you may call it, success, and still feel restless internally because external achievement cannot fully satisfy something that is fundamentally spiritual. It's like trying to feed hunger with salt water. For a moment, it distracts you, but eventually, the deeper thirst returns.
Sir, so according to Hinduism, what are we really beyond the body?
Beyond the body, like the Vedas and Upanishads teach that the body is temporary, but consciousness itself is deeper. A true self is called Atma, not the personality, not the ego, not your name, not your social identity, but all those things, because all those things actually change. And if you think about it, your body today is different from when you were a child. Your thoughts change, your emotions change, your beliefs change. Yet something remained present throughout every stage. Something silently observing all experiences. Hinduism says that observer is the deeper self.
Sir, and most people never realize that.
Yeah, most people become completely identified with the temporary character they are playing. We say, my career, my pain, my reputation is me, my body is me. But Hinduism says that this identification creates suffering because everything temporary eventually changes, and the ego fears that change constantly. That's why human fear aging or rejection, death, failure, loss, because the ego depends on temporary things feeling permanent.
Sir, one of the biggest mysteries what existed before birth.
What does the Hindu philosophy says about it? Hinduism generally teaches that consciousness does not begin at physical birth. Birth is viewed more like entering a new chapter in your new chapter than beginning existence itself. The soul already exists before birth. That is the part of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth. The individual consciousness carries karmic tendencies, impressions, desires, fears, and unresolved attachments from previous experiences.
Sir, so life is seen as a continuation rather than beginning.
Exactly, Sachin. Imagine reading one chapter from a very long book. If you only see one chapter, many things seem random. But Hinduism suggests this life is part a much longer journey of consciousness.
Then naturally people ask if we lived before, why don't we remember?
Yeah, I think I get it. And honestly, that is one of the deepest questions. At first, it seems logical that remembering everything would help spiritual growth. But imagine remembering everything, every breakup, every death, every trauma, or every betrayal, every mistake from countless of lives. The human mind might become crushed under that weight. So Hinduism says forgetting may actually protect the mind, but the experiences are not completely lost. They remain as deeper impressions called samskaras. And that's why some people naturally carry fears, talents, wisdom, emotional patterns, or spiritual inclinations. The memory may disappear consciously, but the conditioning remains eternally.
Mhm. That's fascinating because many people feel things they cannot logically explain.
Yes, many people, yeah, feel many things. Some people feel spiritually connected very young, or others naturally seek truth in early life. Some carry deep fears without causes. Hindu traditions sometimes interpret these are consciousness carrying impressions across experiences. But importantly, the goal is not collecting memories. The goal is awakening.
Sir, why does suffering exist? Then why would existence create pain at all?
Because such in suffering often becomes the doorway to deeper awareness. Most humans begin life chasing pleasure, success, validation, security, but eventually almost everyone discovers nothing external stays permanent. Money changes, relationships change, bodies age, and people die. Situations, yeah, collapse, and suffering forces humans to ask deeper questions. Without suffering, many people would remain distracted forever. Pain interrupts that unconscious living.
That's powerful because many people only begin searching spiritually after difficult experiences.
Yes, that is why loss humbles the ego. Suffering strips away illusions. It forces us to see how fragile temporary things really are. And often the people who awaken spiritually are not those who live the easiest lives, but those who are forced to confront reality deeply.
Sir, what about people who feel they made unforgivable mistakes? Can someone still move towards a moksha after doing harmful things?
Hinduism generally says no soul is permanently condemned. Actions create karma and consciousness, absolutely. But the deeper self itself remains beyond temporary ignorance. Many harmful actions come from unconsciousness, like I said, ego, fear, anger, or attachment. This doesn't remove responsibility, but it means a person is not internally trapped in their worst moment. Transformation remains possible.
Sir, so what actually creates spiritual growth?
Not guilt alone, just like I said, awareness. There is difference. I hate myself, and I finally see things clearly. These are two different things. One destroys, and the other transforms. True growth begins through honesty, responsibility, humility, discipline, compassion, conscious change.
Sir, why does the soul keep returning?
Reincarnation, because the consciousness remains attached to experience. Attachment creates continuation, desire creates continuation, fear creates continuation. As long as consciousness identifies completely with temporary forms, the cycle continues. And a beautiful analogy in Hinduism is like ocean waves. Each wave appears separate, born, rising, falling, and disappearing. But every wave is still ocean. Humans identify only with the wave, the temporary personality, and moksha happen when consciousness realizes it was I was never separate from the ocean itself.
Sir, I think the biggest fear most humans carry, even if they don't admit it, is death. Not just losing others, but their own experience. Why do humans fear death so deeply?
Well, Sachin, everyone fears that, I think, because the ego experiences that as annihilation. The mind builds an identity around the body and memories, achievements, relationships, and personality. So when that approaches, the ego feels everything I know of myself is ending, and that creates enormous fear. But Hindu philosophy asks the deeper question: what if that is not the destruction of consciousness, but only the ending of one temporary form?
So, according to Hinduism, death is not the end.
Not in the ultimate sense. Hinduism sees that more like a transition and then disappearance. A very powerful analogy is sleep, you might say. Every night the world disappears, identity fades to, and thoughts dissolve, so the ego temporarily vanishes. Yet consciousness returns again in the morning. That is something described similarly, not as total non-existence, but as movement from one state of experience into another.
That's fascinating because most people experience death as something dark, terrifying.
Yes, everybody maybe have spoken, not everybody, but because humans usually see that from the perspective of attachment, we fear losing our loved ones, our brothers and sisters, like our identity, control of your own life, our body, possessions. But Hinduism says that mainly frightens the part of us that believes I'm only this temporary form. A beautiful analogy in that is the wave what we talked about. Imagine a wave becoming conscious. The wave says, "I'm separate. I must survive, and one day I will disappear." But the wave forgets something. It was never separate from the whole ocean itself. When the wave falls back into the ocean, nothing real was lost. Only the temporary shape changed. Hinduism says humans are similar. The body changes, the personality changes, the form changes, but consciousness itself continues.
So why does death exist? And at all, then why create beings only for them to die?
Because without that, attachment might become endless. Imagine if human never dies, people might cling forever to pain, greed, ego, power, or whatever they might be fear of identity. That forces movement. It forces transformation. It forces impermanence. And in Hindu philosophy, that is not merely destruction. It's part of the rhythm of existence, like the cycle samskara, like seasons changing, leaves falling, and stars collapsing, waves rising and dissolving. Nature itself constantly demonstrates creation and destruction are inseparable.
That's actually profound because modern society almost treats death as something unnatural.
Yeah, exactly. Modern culture often hides that hospitals, distraction, entertainment, silence, constant stimulation. But ancient traditions reflected deeply on death because they understood something important. The awareness of death changes how you live. When people truly understand impermanence, ego weakens, gratitude increases, small conflicts become less important, awareness deepens. that gives urgency to consciousness.
Mhm. What does Hinduism say actually happen immediately after death?
That's a tough question to answer. Different Hindu tradition describe it differently, but generally the physical body returns to nature while consciousness continues carrying karmic impressions and tendencies. The soul is said so to move according to karma, attachment, level of awareness, and unresolved desires. Some traditions describe transitional states of realms. Other focus more on reincarnation itself. But almost all agree that is not the end of consciousness.
And what determines whether the soul moves closer to moksha?
I think awareness, not status, not wealth, not social success. The souls evolve when consciousness gradually becomes less trapped in ego, fear, attachment, unconscious desire, and yeah, sometimes ironically, that itself becomes one of the greatest spiritual teachers because that reveals everything temporary eventually dissolves, and once someone truly realizes that very deeply, they begin searching for something beyond temporary existence.
So, in a strange way, awareness of death can actually awaken life.
Absolutely. Many people only begin truly living after confronting morality because that destroys the illusion that we have unlimited time. It forces questions like what truly matters? Who am I really? What remains when everything external disappears? And Hindu philosophy says that questioning itself it's sacred, what we talked about because the moment a human being generally begins searching beyond surface existence, consciousness is already beginning to wake up.
Sir, is my personal question also. Do enlightened people still fear death?
Enlightened people, the body naturally wants to survive. That is what we know. But spiritually awakened beings are described as less afraid because they no longer identify completely with the temporary form. A beautiful analogy with that is an actor leaving a stage. During the play, the role feels real, the emotions feel real, the story feels real. But when the play ends and the actor remembers, I was never only the character. Hinduism says that's similar to moksha. It's the realization that beneath all temporary identities exists something eternal. And once consciousness truly realizes that that no longer appears as absolute destruction, but as a transition with much larger reality.
Sir, in today's world full of distractions and survival struggle, how can someone realistic move toward moksha, especially without wealth or spiritual privilege?
Hinduism repeatedly says you do not need luxury for awakening. You need sincerity and awareness. The deepest practices are simple meditation, silence, self-observation, truthful living, compassion and discipline, reducing attachment or self-inquiry. One of the most powerful question is, who am I beyond thought? Most people never stop long enough to observe their own mind because the moment awareness begins observing thought instead of being controlled by it, consciousness starts changing.
So liberation begins internally.
Can own everything externally and still remain spiritually trapped or possess almost nothing and begin awakening deeply. Moksha is not about what you own, it's about what no longer owns you internally.
Sir, if you could leave humanity with one final message about life and consciousness, what would you say?
Uh, I would say this human beings spend most of life trying to control external world, but eventually everyone faces uncertainty in suffering, loss, aging, and death. And those moments force deeper questions. Hindu philosophy suggests that beneath all changing experiences exists something eternal, awareness, self. Maybe the purpose of life is not becoming the most important person in the universe. Maybe it is awakening that what you truly are beneath ego, fear, and attachment. Maybe you are the universe, and perhaps that is not maybe the opposite of life. Perhaps unconsciousness is.
Sir, thank you for coming our podcast.
Thank you very much for your time, also, Sachin, that you have been giving me the opportunity to come on your podcast and sharing this knowledge with the world. And hope, until next time, stay curious, stay aware, and keep searching for the truth.
Thank you. Thank you, Akash, for sharing such a deep and honest conversation today. Thank you to everyone listening. If this episode made you reflect deeply about your existence, your consciousness on your life, share it with someone who may need. Until next time, stay aware, stay curious, keep searching for truth. Thank you. Subscribe this channel, like, share this video. Thank you.